Dr. Hana Lee stood at the window of the research vessel, staring at the stars. Her reflection looked back at her, a young woman with tired eyes and a body that everyone said was too weak for space travel. The doctors on Earth had warned her. The instructors at the academy had doubted her. Even now, after earning the highest grades in xenobiology, her crewmates treated her like glass that might shatter at any moment. She was 28 years old and had spent most of her life proving people wrong. Born with brittle bones and a weak immune system, Hana should have stayed on Earth in a safe job. Instead, she studied the deadliest creatures in the galaxy. She wanted to understand what others feared. The ship she served on was called the Eternal Horizon. It belonged to the Galactic Coalition, a group of alien species that worked together across the stars. Humans had joined the coalition 50 years ago, but most aliens still saw them as the weakest members. Too soft, too emotional, too fragile. Hana heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see Lieutenant Bora Nam walking toward her. Bora was one of the few people on the ship who treated Hana with respect. "We got a distress signal," Bora said quietly. "From Vareth 9, it's bad." Hana felt her stomach tighten. Vareth 9 was a mining colony on a distant moon. 300 people lived there. "What happened?" Bora's face was pale. The message was broken up, but one word came through clearly. Void Reaver. The name hung in the air like a curse. Everyone in the coalition knew about the Void Reaver. It was a legend, a nightmare, a creature that had destroyed entire armies across centuries. Some people thought it was just a story. Others knew better. Captain Dae-hyun Kang called an emergency meeting. The command room was crowded with officers from different species. Dae-hyun was human, young for a captain, and desperate to prove that humans belonged in the coalition. He stood at the front with his jaw set tight. "We're going to Vareth 9, he announced. "If there are survivors, we'll get them out." Commander Taejin Choi slammed his fist on the table. He was a Kryloth, a species known for their strength and military skill. His skin was gray and covered with natural armor. "This is foolish. If the Void Reaver is really there, we should call the fleet and destroy the entire moon from orbit. There might be people alive," Dae-hyun said firmly. "Then they're already dead," Taejin replied coldly. "The Void Reaver doesn't leave survivors." Hana raised her hand. "Actually, that's not true." Everyone turned to look at her. Taejin's expression was full of contempt. "What would you know about it, human?" "I've studied every recorded encounter with the Void Reaver," Hana said, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. "In 70% of cases, it leaves one survivor. Just one always." "Coincidence," Taejin muttered. "Maybe," Hana said. "Or maybe it's a pattern. Maybe it means something." Dae-hyun made his decision. The Eternal Horizon set course for Vareth 9. When they arrived 3 days later, the colony was silent. The ship descended slowly through the moon's thin atmosphere. Through the windows, Hana could see the damage. Buildings were torn open like paper. Equipment was scattered and crushed. There were no lights, no movement. The landing team suited up in protective gear. Hana insisted on going with them. Dr. Minho Park, the ship's medic, tried to stop her. "You're not trained for field work. Your condition—" "I'm the xenobiologist," Hana interrupted. "If there's evidence of what did this, I need to see it firsthand." Reluctantly, Minho agreed. The colony was worse up close. Hana walked through the destruction with her scanner in hand, her legs shaking inside her suit. Blood stained the walls. Claw marks gouged through metal. Bodies lay where they had fallen, some barely recognizable. 300 people had lived here. Now they were gone. Bora stayed close to Hana, her weapon ready. "What are we looking for?" "Patterns," Hana said quietly. She examined the claw marks, measured them, took samples. "These aren't random. Look at how precise they are." This wasn't mindless killing. This was methodical. They found the first survivor in a locked bunker beneath the administration building. She was a young woman curled in the corner, her eyes wide and empty. She was alive but unresponsive. When the medics tried to move her, she started screaming. Hana knelt beside her slowly, carefully. "It's okay. You're safe now. Can you tell me what happened?" The woman's eyes focused on Hana for just a moment. Her lips moved. The words came out in a whisper, broken and raw. "It didn't want to kill us. It wanted to see if we were worth keeping." Then she passed out. Back on the ship, Captain Dae-hyun called another meeting. The survivor was in the medical bay, sedated. The crew was shaken. Taejin was angrier than ever. "We need to call for military support," Taejin demanded. "A full battle fleet. We glass this moon before that thing kills anyone else." "Wait," Hana said. She pulled up her data on the main screen. "Look at this. The attack took 12 hours. That's slow for something as powerful as the Void Reaver. It could have killed everyone in minutes, but it took its time. And it left one person alive in a secure location. That's not an accident. What are you saying?" Taehyun asked. "I'm saying the Void Reaver is intelligent. It's not just killing. It's testing," Taejin laughed harshly. "Testing? It's a monster. Monsters don't think. They destroy. Then why does it always leave one survivor?" Hana shot back. "Why not kill everyone? What is it waiting for?" The room went quiet. No one had an answer. That night, Hana couldn't sleep. She sat in her small quarters, reviewing the data over and over. The survivor's words echoed in her mind. Worth keeping? What did that mean? She pulled up every file on the Void Reaver she could find. Most were incomplete. Some were contradictory. But one thing was consistent: the creature was smart. It learned from every battle. It adapted. And it always left one person alive to tell the story. Hana realized something that made her blood run cold. The Void Reaver wasn't just hunting. It was conducting an experiment. And every species that encountered it had failed the test. She had to find out why. And maybe, just maybe, she could figure out how to pass. Commander Taejin Choi didn't believe in waiting. 3 days after finding the destroyed colony, he gathered 50 soldiers for a strike mission. They were the best fighters in the coalition, trained warriors from 6 different species armed with plasma weapons and combat armor. Hana tried to stop them. She went to Captain Daehyun's office early in the morning, her datapad filled with research. "This is a mistake. The Void Reaver is too intelligent for a direct attack. Every military force that's tried this approach has been destroyed." Daehyun looked tired. He hadn't slept much either. "I can't stop them, Hana. The coalition command wants action. If we don't do something, they'll send a fleet and destroy the entire moon. So you're sending soldiers to die? I'm giving us a chance to contain this without killing everyone who might still be hiding down there." Hana wanted to argue more, but she saw the fear in his eyes. Daehyun was trapped between what was smart and what was expected. As a human captain, he couldn't afford to look weak. The strike team descended into the colony's tunnel system at noon. Hana watched from the ship's command center, monitoring their helmet cameras. Bora stood beside her, gripping the edge of the console. The tunnels were dark and quiet. The soldiers moved in formation, their lights cutting through the shadows. Their breathing was steady over the radio. Professional. Confident. "Sector. A clear," one soldier reported. "Sector. Be clear," said another. They reached the deepest level 40 minutes into the mission. The tunnels here were wider, used for heavy mining equipment. Commander Taejin's voice came through clearly. "Split into teams. Cover every passage. If you see it, don't hesitate. Shoot to kill." That's when the lights went out. All 50 soldiers lost their helmet lights at the same moment. The command center screens went black. For 3 seconds, there was only silence and darkness. Then the screaming started. The cameras came back online one by one, showing chaos. Soldiers were firing in all directions, their plasma bolts lighting up the tunnels in brief flashes. But the Void Reaver moved too fast. Hana caught glimpses of it between the flashes, something massive and black flowing through the tunnel like living shadow. It wasn't random. The creature moved with terrible purpose, separating the teams, cutting off escape routes, isolating soldiers one at a time. When someone fired at it, the Void Reaver dodged before they pulled the trigger. It was reading their movements, predicting their tactics. "Fall back," Taejin shouted. "Everyone fall back now." But falling back was impossible. The Void Reaver had already positioned itself between them and the exit. Soldiers tried to fight. They used grenades, combat mechs, everything they had. Nothing worked. The creature adapted to every weapon, every strategy. Hana watched in horror as the camera feeds went dark, one after another. She heard soldiers crying out, heard metal tearing, heard silence spreading through the tunnels. 57 minutes after entering the tunnels, only 3 soldiers made it back to the surface. Commander Taejin was one of them. His armor was shredded. Blood ran down his face. His eyes were wide with shock. Dr. Minho Park rushed to treat the survivors in the medical bay. Hana followed quietly. She needed to understand what had happened. It knew, one soldier kept saying over and over. It knew what we were going to do before we did it. Tajan sat on a medical bed staring at nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. We had every advantage. Better weapons, superior numbers, tactical position. None of it mattered. That thing played with us like we were children. Hana pulled up the mission footage and studied it frame by frame. She saw what the soldiers couldn't see in the moment. The Void Reaver wasn't just fighting, it was learning. In the first 10 minutes, soldiers could land hits on it. By minute 20, it dodged every shot. By minute 30, it was predicting their formation changes before they happened. The creature was running an experiment, testing their capabilities, optimizing its responses, and now it knew exactly how the coalition military operated. Hana presented her findings to Captain Daehyun that evening. He looked even more exhausted than before. Coalition High Command is ordering an orbital strike. They're giving us 6 hours to evacuate. That won't work, Hana said firmly. The Void Reaver survived for centuries. It's faced orbital bombardment before. It knows how to hide, how to wait. What else can we do? We can't fight it. We can't contain it, Hana took a deep breath. What she was about to suggest was insane, but it was the only option that made sense. We stopped trying to fight it. We try to communicate with it, Daehyun stared at her. Communicate? Hana, that thing just killed 47 soldiers. Because they attacked it. Every encounter with the Void Reaver follows the same pattern. Show aggression, get destroyed. But it always leaves survivors. It's waiting for something. Someone who won't fight back. You want to walk into those tunnels unarmed? Yes. That's suicide. Maybe. But if I'm right, it's our only chance to learn what it wants. And if I'm wrong, I'll be just another casualty. Either way, nothing changes. Bora, who had been listening silently, stepped forward. I'll go with her. No, Hana said immediately. Weapons trigger its hunting response. I have to go alone. I have to approach it as prey, not as a threat. Daehyun ran his hands through his hair. He looked at the clock. 5 hours and 37 minutes until the orbital strike. This is the worst idea I've ever heard. I know. If something happens to you, then at least we tried something different. Hana met his eyes steadily. For once, let's not solve a problem with violence. After a long moment, Daehyun nodded. You have 3 hours. If you're not back by then, I'm pulling you out myself. Hana suited up in the lightest gear possible. Just a basic environmental suit, a flashlight, and a small camera to record what happened. No weapons, no armor. Nothing that could be seen as a threat. Bora helped her check the equipment. Her hands were shaking. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, Hana said quietly. Everyone thinks I'm too fragile for this work. Maybe they're right. But being fragile doesn't mean being useless. Sometimes the fragile thing is the only thing strong enough to survive. She descended to the colony surface in a small shuttle. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the destroyed buildings. Hana walked to the tunnel entrance alone, her flashlight beam cutting through the growing darkness. At the threshold, she paused. Her heart was hammering. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back. But she thought about all the times people had underestimated her, all the times she'd proven them wrong by refusing to give up. Hana stepped into the darkness. She could feel it immediately. Something was watching her. Something vast and patient and utterly alien. The Void Reaver was here, somewhere in the shadows, studying her every move. Hana walked deeper into the tunnels, keeping her pace steady and slow. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She simply walked like someone taking an evening stroll, showing no fear, even though she was terrified. Hana walked for 2 hours through the tunnels. Her legs ached. Her lungs burned in the thin air. But she kept moving forward, deeper into the colony's lowest levels. The walls here were scarred with claw marks, some fresh, some ancient. This creature had been here for a long time. Above ground, Captain Daehyun and Lieutenant Bora watched her camera feed in tense silence. They saw only darkness and the small circle of light from her flashlight. They heard only her breathing and the sound of her footsteps. Why hasn't it attacked her yet? Bora whispered. Because she's not acting like prey. Daehyun said quietly. She's not running. She's not hiding. She's just walking, like she belongs there. Finally, Hana reached the deepest chamber. It was vast, carved from solid rock with mining equipment abandoned in the corners. Her flashlight beam swept across the space slowly, and then she saw it. The Void Reaver emerged from the shadows at the far end of the chamber. It was massive, easily 8 feet tall, covered in black chitinous armor that seemed to absorb light. Its body was sleek and powerful, built for speed and strength. 6 eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, watching her with an intelligence that was unmistakable. Hana's heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct told her to run, but she stayed perfectly still, her hands at her sides, making herself as non-threatening as possible. The Void Reaver moved closer. It circled her slowly, its claws clicking softly on the stone floor. Each claw was as long as her forearm, sharp enough to cut through starship hull. It could kill her in less than a second. Instead, it stopped about 10 feet away and tilted its head, studying her. Hana swallowed hard. Her mouth was dry. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is Hana. I'm not here to hurt you." The creature's eyes followed her mouth as she spoke. It didn't respond, but it also didn't attack. It was listening. Hana pulled out her data pad slowly, keeping her movements smooth and deliberate. She brought up a series of mathematical patterns, prime numbers, geometric shapes, basic physics equations, universal concepts that any intelligent being might recognize. She held the pad up so the Void Reaver could see the screen. "Do you understand this?" The creature leaned closer, its eyes focused on the patterns. Then, very deliberately, it raised one claw and traced the same geometric shape in the dust on the floor. Hana's breath caught. "You do understand. You're intelligent. You're not just a predator." She spent the next hour communicating with the creature through patterns and movements. When she raised her hand, it raised its claw. When she stepped left, it stepped left. It was mirroring her, testing her responses just as she was testing its. Slowly, carefully, Hana began to understand. The Void Reaver wasn't mindless. It was conducting experiments just like she did in her lab. But its experiments were about behavior, about how species responded to threats, about what made something worthy of survival. "You're a test," she whispered. "Someone created you to judge other species, to see if they were worth keeping alive." The Void Reaver's eyes brightened slightly. Hana took that as confirmation. "But the species that made you are gone now, aren't they? You've been alone for thousands of years, running the same test over and over, and everyone fails. Everyone responds with violence." The creature lowered itself to the ground, sitting back on its haunches. The movement was oddly vulnerable. For the first time, Hana didn't see a monster. She saw a being trapped by its own programming, forced to kill and kill and kill, always searching for something it never found. Loneliness. That's what she saw in those glowing eyes. Terrible, endless loneliness. Hana's legs were shaking from exhaustion. Her brittle bones ached from standing so long. Slowly, carefully, she sat down on the cold stone floor. She folded her legs beneath her and placed her hands in her lap. The Void Reaver watched her intently. Then, even more slowly, it settled down as well, mirroring her posture. They sat facing each other in the darkness, separated by 10 feet of empty space. "I'm sorry," Hana said quietly. "I'm sorry you've been alone for so long. I'm sorry every species you met tried to destroy you. But I'm here now. And I'm not afraid. Well, I'm afraid, but I'm not running. I want to understand you." The creature made a sound, low and rumbling, almost like a purr. It wasn't threatening. It was sad. They sat together in silence for a long time. Hana felt her fear slowly fading, replaced by something else. Understanding, connection. This being had spent millennia alone, testing species that only knew how to fight. No one had ever simply sat with it. No one had ever tried to see it as something other than a monster. Then the chamber shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Rocks tumbled from the walls. The Void Reaver's head snapped up, its body tensing. Hana scrambled to her feet, her heart racing again. "What was that?" she said into her comm. Captain Daehyun's voice came through, strained and urgent. "Coalition High Command launched the orbital strike early. They didn't want to wait. Missiles are hitting the surface now. You need to get out of there." Another impact. The ceiling cracked. The Void Reaver's posture changed instantly. Its body coiled tight, ready to spring. Its eyes locked onto the exit tunnel, and onto Hana, who stood between it and escape. Hana understood immediately. The creature thought this was another attack. Another betrayal. She had approached peacefully, and now weapons were falling from the sky. From the Void Reaver's perspective, this was proof that her species was no different from all the others. It was going to kill her, But Hana didn't move. She stood her ground, spreading her arms wide, making herself as open and vulnerable as possible. "No," she said firmly. "They're wrong. Not all of us are like that." "I'm not like that." The Void Reaver took a step toward her, its claws extended. "You've been searching for someone who sees you," Hana continued, her voice steady even as her hands trembled. "Someone who understands. I see you. I know what you are. You're not a weapon. You're not a monster. You're alone and you're tired and you want it to stop." Another explosion, much closer. The tunnel entrance collapsed partially, sealing them in. "I'm staying," Hana said. "If you want to kill me, I can't stop you. But I'm not running. I meant what I said. I'm here to understand you." The ceiling groaned. Cracks spread across the rock above them. The entire chamber was about to collapse. Hana closed her eyes, accepting whatever came next. The ceiling gave way, but death didn't come. Instead, Hana felt something massive wrap around her. The Void Reaver had lunged forward, not to attack but to shield her. Its armored body curved around her like a shell, protecting her from the falling rocks. Stones crashed down on the creature's back. It absorbed the impacts without making a sound, holding perfectly still to keep Hana safe in the protective pocket it had created. When the collapse finally stopped, there was only darkness and silence and the sound of the Void Reaver's breathing, slow and steady, surrounding her like a heartbeat. Hana reached out in the dark and touched the creature's armor. It was warm. She felt it shudder slightly under her hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for trusting me." The Void Reaver made that low rumbling sound again. But this time it didn't sound sad. It sounded almost hopeful. The Coalition warships arrived exactly on schedule. 6 massive vessels surrounded the eternal horizon, their weapons charged and ready. On the main screen, Admiral Yoonji Han appeared, a human officer with cold eyes and no patience for sentiment. "Captain Kang, you have 1 hour to surrender the creature," she said flatly. "If you refuse, we will open fire on your vessel. All crew members will be given the opportunity to evacuate first, but the creature must be terminated. These are direct orders from Coalition Command." Daehyun looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, waiting for his decision. Some looked afraid. Others looked determined. Commander Taejin stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Request denied," Daehyun said quietly. Admiral Han's eyes narrowed. "You understand what you're doing? You're throwing away your career, your crew's lives, everything for a monster." "It's not a monster," Daehyun replied, "and I'm not throwing anything away. I'm standing up for what's right." In the cargo bay, Hana sat with Gyul. She had been preparing for this moment. She had recorded everything, all her research, all her observations, every piece of evidence that proved Gyul was intelligent and peaceful. Now she transmitted it directly to Admiral Han's ship. "Admiral, please look at what I'm sending you," Hana said, broadcasting from the cargo bay. "This creature was designed thousands of years ago by an extinct civilization. It was created to test other species, to see if they were capable of growth and understanding. Every species that responded with only violence was deemed unworthy. But we have a chance to be different." "Dr. Lee, I've read your report," Admiral Han said coldly. "It changes nothing. That creature has killed hundreds of Coalition soldiers. It's too dangerous to be allowed to live." "It killed soldiers who attacked it first," Hana argued. "It was defending itself. Since coming aboard this ship, it hasn't harmed a single person. It's shown restraint, intelligence, and even kindness. If we destroy it now, we're proving that we learned nothing. We're no better than the civilizations that failed before us." "You have 45 minutes, Admiral Han said, and cut the transmission." Hana felt despair rising in her chest. She had tried everything, said everything, and it wasn't enough. Lieutenant Bora entered the cargo bay, her face grim. "Hana, we need to evacuate you." The captains ordered all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. "I'm not leaving," Hana said firmly. "The warships will destroy this vessel. You'll die, then I'll die here, with Gyul." Hana stood and placed her hand on the creature's side. "I won't abandon it. Not after everything we've been through." Bora was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled sadly. "Then I'm staying too." "Me too," said Dr. Minho Park, entering behind her. More crew members filed into the cargo bay, engineers, scientists, security officers, even some of the soldiers who had first pointed weapons at Gyul. They stood together, forming a circle around the creature. Commander Taejin was the last to enter. He looked at Guel for a long time, his face conflicted. Finally, he took his place in the circle. I still don't trust it completely, he said gruffly. But I trust Dr. Lee, and she's never been wrong about anything important. Captain Daehyun's voice came over the intercom. This is your captain speaking. To all Coalition vessels, we are not surrendering the creature known as Guel. We stand together in protecting a living, intelligent being. If you want to destroy it, you'll have to destroy all of us. The minutes ticked by. 30 left. 20. 10. Hana closed her eyes, holding on to Guel. She had done everything she could. She had shown compassion to something everyone feared. She had built trust where there was only hatred. If this was how it ended, at least she had tried. Then Captain Daehyun's voice came again, filled with surprise. We're getting transmissions. Multiple ships. They're supporting us. Hana opened her eyes. What? On the cargo bay screen, new images appeared. Coalition vessels from across the sector were broadcasting messages of support. Captains from different species, some who had lost soldiers to the Void Reaver, were standing up for the Eternal Horizon. A Kreloth commander spoke first. My brother died fighting that creature. But I've seen Dr. Lee's research. I've watched the recordings. What she did took more courage than any battle. The Coalition was founded on unity and understanding, not fear and destruction. I stand with the Eternal Horizon. More voices joined. More ships. A wave of support that grew and grew until dozens of vessels had pledged to protect the Eternal Horizon, if the warships attacked. Admiral Han's face appeared on the screen again. She looked furious, but she also looked defeated. This is highly irregular. Coalition High Command will hear about this. Good, Daehyun said calmly. Let them hear that their soldiers still believe in the Coalition's founding principles. After a long, tense silence, Admiral Han spoke again. The strike is cancelled. But this isn't over, Captain Kang, not by a long shot. The warships powered down their weapons and withdrew. The cargo bay erupted in cheers. Crew members hugged each other, crying and laughing. Hana sank to the floor, overwhelmed with relief. Bora knelt beside her, grinning. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, Hana corrected. All of us. Guel made that low rumbling sound, the one Hana had learned meant contentment. The creature lowered its head and gently touched her shoulder, the gesture unmistakably affectionate. 3 months later, the Coalition established a new research station on the edge of explored space. It was dedicated to studying ancient civilizations and the beings they created. Dr. Hana Lee was appointed as the lead researcher. Guel lived there peacefully, no longer alone. Scientists from across the galaxy came to study the creature that had haunted their ancestors. They learned that intelligence took many forms, that understanding was more powerful than fear, that the most dangerous thing in the universe wasn't a monster. It was the refusal to see beyond your own prejudices. Hana's brittle bones still ached on cold days. Her immune system still required constant monitoring, but she no longer thought of herself as fragile. Fragility, she had learned, was just another word for adaptability, for knowing when to bend instead of break, for surviving through understanding rather than force. One evening, she sat with Guel in the observation deck of the research station. Through the massive windows, they watched the stars together. The creature rested its head near her, completely relaxed. After thousands of years of loneliness, it had finally found what it was searching for. Not a species that could defeat it. A species that could understand it. They said I was too fragile for space, Hana murmured, reaching up to touch Guel's armor. They said my body was too weak, my bones too brittle, my health too poor. Maybe they were right about my body, but they were wrong about my strength. Guel rumbled softly in response. You weren't a monster, Hana continued. You were just waiting for someone who would see past the fear, someone who would sit with you in the darkness and choose understanding over violence. She smiled, looking out at the infinite expanse of space. We're not so different, you and me. We're both survivors. We both had to prove ourselves to a galaxy that didn't believe in us. And we both found exactly what we needed. Lieutenant Bora entered the observation deck carrying 2 cups of tea. She had been promoted to head of security for the research station. Thought you might want this, she said, handing 1 cup to Hana. Thank you. Hana took the cup gratefully. Have you seen the latest reports? 3 more species have requested to study here. They want to learn from Guel. That's wonderful, Bora said. She looked at Guel with genuine warmth. Hard to believe this is the same creature that terrified the entire galaxy. Now it's teaching us. That's what happens when you give someone a chance, Hana said softly. When you choose to see the being instead of the threat. When you lead with compassion instead of fear. Captain Daehyun visited the next day. He had been promoted to admiral after his stand against Coalition Command. I'm putting together a new division, he told Hana. First contact specialists. People trained to approach unknown species with understanding instead of weapons. I want you to help lead it. Hana smiled. I'd be honored. You changed everything, you know, Daehyun said, looking at Gyul. The way the Coalition approaches threats, the way we think about intelligence, even the way we see ourselves. One fragile human woman changed the entire galaxy. I'm not that fragile, Hana said with a slight smile. I just knew when to be soft. There's strength in that too. That night, alone in the observation deck with Gyul, Hana thought about how far they had come. From a destroyed colony to a place of learning. From fear to understanding. From loneliness to companionship. The stars are beautiful tonight, she said quietly. Gyul's eyes glowed softly in agreement. We tamed them, you and I, Hana whispered. Not with force. Not with violence. But with patience and understanding. We showed the galaxy that there's more than one way to be strong. The creature rumbled. That sound of deep contentment that Hana had come to love. Outside the window, the stars blazed in endless patterns. Each one a world a possibility. The universe was vast and dangerous and full of unknowns. But it was also full of wonder. Full of connections waiting to be made. Full of understanding waiting to be discovered. Hana leaned against Gyul's side, feeling the steady rhythm of its breathing. Hana woke slowly, her body aching. She was still alive. That was the first surprise. The second was that she could breathe. The Void Reaver had created a pocket of air around her, somehow keeping the dust and debris away. Her flashlight was broken, but faint light filtered through gaps in the rubble above. She could see the creature's form surrounding her, massive and still, its armor cracked in several places. Dark fluid leaked from the wounds. It was hurt. Hey, Hana said softly, touching its side. Are you okay? The Void Reaver shifted slightly, turning one of its 6 eyes toward her. The glow was dimmer now, but still present. It was alive. And it had taken the full force of the collapse to keep her safe. For the first time, Hana saw the creature for what it truly was. Not invincible. Not unstoppable. Just incredibly resilient and carrying the scars of centuries of battles. This being had survived wars and bombardments and countless attempts to kill it. But survival wasn't the same as being unbreakable. Hana pulled her emergency medical kit from her belt. It was designed for human injuries, but the basic supplies might help. She had bandages, sealant foam, and antiseptic. I'm going to try to help you, okay? This might sting. The creature watched as she worked, cleaning the cracks in its armor and sealing the worst leaks. It didn't resist. It simply held still, allowing her to tend to its wounds. When she finished, Hana sat back, exhausted. We need to get out of here, she said. Can you move? The Void Reaver slowly unfolded itself, carefully avoiding crushing Hana. It was slower than before, favoring one side, but it could still move. It turned toward the collapsed tunnel and began clearing debris with its claws, moving rocks that would have taken a dozen people to shift. Hana worked alongside it, moving smaller stones. They developed a rhythm. The creature would break through barriers and she would clear the path behind them. When exhaustion made her stumble, the Void Reaver would steady her with one gentle claw. When debris blocked their way, it would shield her while creating a new route. They moved as a team, as partners. After hours of digging, they finally saw real light. The surface. They had made it. Hana climbed out first, blinking in the harsh sunlight. The colony was even more destroyed now, with smoking craters everywhere from the orbital strike. But the bombardment had stopped. The moon was still intact. The Void Reaver emerged behind her, and Hana heard weapons charging immediately. She turned to see Captain Daehyun, Lieutenant Bora, and at least 20 soldiers surrounding them. Every gun was pointed at the creature. Commander Tamed stood at the front, his face twisted with anger. Step away from it, Dr. Lee, now. Hana moved to stand between the soldiers and the Void Reaver. She was covered in dust and blood, barely able to stand, but her voice was clear. Lower your weapons. All of you. That thing killed 47 of our people, Tamed said through clenched teeth. Because you attacked it first, Hana replied firmly. Every weapon you fired at it, every soldier you sent, you triggered its defense response. But look at it now. It could kill all of you in seconds. Instead, it's standing here peacefully because I asked it to. Dr. Minho Park stepped forward, his scanner out. Hana, you've been underground for 6 hours with that creature. You might be in shock. You might not be thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly, Hana said. She looked at Captain Daehyun. This being saved my life. It protected me when the ceiling collapsed. It could have left me to die, but it didn't. That's not the behavior of a mindless monster. Daehyun studied the Void Reaver carefully. The creature stood very still, its eyes focused on Hana. It made no aggressive moves despite being surrounded by weapons. What do you want us to do? Let it come back to the ship. Let me continue studying it. This is the most important discovery in Coalition history. Proof that intelligence can exist in forms we never imagined. Absolutely not, Taejin snapped. That thing comes on our ship, it will kill us all. Then I'll stay with it, Hana said quietly. I'll remain here on this moon, alone. Whatever happens, it's my choice. Behind her, the Void Reaver made a low sound, almost like a protest. Hana reached back and touched its leg gently. It's okay, she said softly. Then she looked back at Daehyun. I believe in what we've built here. I believe this creature can be trusted, and I'm asking you to believe in me. The silence stretched. Soldiers shifted nervously. Taejin glared at Daehyun, waiting for the order to fire. Finally, Daehyun lowered his weapon. Stand down. All of you. Captain, Taejin began. I said stand down. Daehyun's voice was firm. He looked at Hana. The creature can come aboard, but it stays in the cargo bay under observation. And you stay with it. Agreed, Hana said immediately. The journey back to the ship was tense. Soldiers kept their weapons ready but didn't fire. The Void Reaver walked beside Hana, matching her slower pace. When her legs gave out halfway there, the creature gently lifted her, cradling her in its arms as carefully as if she were made of glass. Lieutenant Bora walked alongside them. What do you call it? She asked quietly. Hana thought for a moment. Gyul, it means winter in Korean. Cold and crystalline, but beautiful in its own way. Gyul, Bora repeated softly. That's a good name. The cargo bay was large but felt smaller with Gyul inside. The crew set up barriers and monitoring equipment. Hana refused to leave. She set up a small cot in the corner and stayed there, sitting with the creature as medical teams treated both of them. Over the next few days, something remarkable happened. Crew members began visiting the cargo bay. At first, they just watched from the safety of the barriers, but gradually they came closer. Bora was the first to approach without fear. She stood beside Hana and held out her hand. Gyul studied her for a long moment, then gently touched her palm with one claw tip, careful not to scratch. Dr. Minho Park came next, bringing his medical equipment. I need to run some scans, for research purposes. But Hana could see the wonder in his eyes as he worked. Even Commander Taejin visited, though he stayed by the door. He watched Gyul carefully. The creature watched him back. There was no aggression from either side. Just careful observation. Hana showed the crew what she had learned, how Gyul communicated through gestures and patterns, how it responded to respect with respect, how it was capable of gentleness despite its terrible strength. 1 week after leaving Verath 9, Captain Daehyun received a transmission from Coalition High Command. His face went pale as he listened. Then he called Hana to the bridge. They know about Gyul, he said quietly. Word got out about what happened. And now they're demanding we hand it over for termination. Hana felt her blood run cold. No. If we refuse, they'll brand the Eternal Horizon as a rogue vessel. They'll send warships to destroy us. Then let them come, Hana said fiercely. Gyul is not a threat. It's a living being with intelligence and feelings. Killing it would be murder. Daehyun ran his hands through his hair. They're giving us 48 hours to comply. Hana looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, warships were preparing to destroy everything she had worked for, everything Gyul represented. Then we have 48 hours to change their minds, she said. She just had no idea how.